Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of the Willow Cove Crafts podcast, a podcast about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily, and you can find me on both Ravelry and Instagram as Willow Cove Crafts, all one word. Today is Friday, November 26th, I believe. And I am coming to you from just outside of Madison in Verona, Wisconsin. A quick piece of administrative news is that I have started a Ravelry group. It is called Willow Cove Crafts Podcast on Ravelry. So if you are a Ravelry member and you would like to go join that group, I have just started a couple threads, an introductions thread and then an ask me anything thread. So if that sort of thing interests you, I look forward to interacting with you over on the Ravelry group as well. It has been a little less than 2 weeks since I last recorded. I typically record on Sundays. And again, today is Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving in the United States. So I had off of work today. Dan is working today, so I thought it made sense to record a little early while he's at work. And then that way we could have a little bit more of our time together this weekend. Yeah, you might be seeing this episode a little bit earlier than usual, but I bet no one minds that. I did want to take a couple minutes this episode to talk about, what I've been up to the last few weeks, which I typically do, but I feel like the what I've been up to is like usually a fun, happy section, and to be very straightforward, the last week really sucked, and I debated how much detail I wanted to go into on the podcast. I have no problem talking about what's been going on, but it is quite the deviation from my normal content that I put out. But I don't want to like sugarcoat things, right? Like, I really like knitting and I really like beautiful things and I like to pull that into my life as much as possible, but sometimes life doesn't cooperate and hard things happen. So I, always want to be authentic and let you know what's going on. And then the other reason I decided to, share what has happened is, so I did have, and I'll go into detail in a little bit, but I did have a medical emergency this week. And after this all happened, I was looking, online for stories from other people who have gone through something similar. And I wasn't finding a lot. And I've been researching, what happened, and I, more so I'm looking for stories of people who have gone through the same thing and, have continued on and, what life looks like after all of this. And, I wasn't finding much. And so I thought, why not, put my story out there and maybe it could help someone else. Maybe it can help one of you. Maybe you'll hear this and pass it along to one of your loved ones. But yeah, I wanted to share. So if you don't like medical stuff, maybe skip ahead a couple minutes. It's nothing too graphic, but I will be talking about that for a little bit here. So I started feeling a little off on, it must have been, so I felt fine the last time I recorded an episode, which was on a Sunday, and then I feel like the following Monday or Tuesday was when I started noticing things were a little weird. So, maybe 10 to 12 days ago. And the first thing I noticed was I was getting very winded very easily. I was going up, my work has a couple flights of stairs that I take pretty regularly, and I was noticing, like, by the time I got to the top of the stairs, I was breathing pretty heavily. And I dismissed it, I feel like we always kind of rationalize away our health things, because most often things are nothing, right? So, I was thinking, I haven't been exercising a ton, so of course, like, I'm getting really winded. I always get winded when I go up the stairs. So, maybe I'm, just getting really unfit, and so that's why I'm feeling so winded. And then I also was like, we still have to wear masks in the hallway, so I was like, I can't breathe with my mask on. So I bet, like, those two things together are what's making me really winded. But when I say winded, I mean, I would take the flight of stairs up and then, like, speed walk to my office so that I could take my mask off. I felt kind of like I was suffocating. So, that happened, but I, didn't think about it too much. The other thing I started to notice that first week was I often wear a Fitbit, and it gathers a lot of data for you, and one of those pieces of data is your resting heart rate. And I've been wearing a Fitbit for years, and it's been calculating my resting heart rate every day, and it's always been very consistent. Like, you can go back years and years on my Fitbit data and see, like, a pretty constant resting heart rate. And then last week it just went up by about 8 beats per minute, which is pretty significant. So I noticed that, and along with the shortness of breath, I thought, like, maybe I'm just getting sick. I took a COVID test to see, even though I'm vaccinated, I know there's breakthrough infections. So I took a COVID test just to confirm that it wasn't COVID. That came back negative. And so I was like, I don't have COVID, but, there's 100 other things that can cause respiratory symptoms. So I'm probably just, like, getting sick from something else. So again, just, like, decided to wait things out a bit. And then last weekend, starting on Friday, I remember waking up in the middle of the night on last Friday night, and my arm felt really stiff. Nothing, like, too painful, but I felt the need to, like, get out of bed and stretch a little bit. And then over the course of the weekend, so that was Friday night, and then over the course of the rest of the weekend, my arm started to hurt more and more. And again, I was like, I bet it's just, like, an overuse injury. I knit all the time, and, like, you're bound, you hear about that constantly, like, knitters having joint pain or whatever. And I was like, what? I've been doing a lot of brioche. One of my projects I'll show you in a bit has a lot of brioche. And I was like, and that, the way I knit, it's my left arm. I'm, like, doing a lot of this. I bet I've just aggravated my shoulder. And that is why it feels bad. So again, like, all weekend, I was like, I think these two things are unrelated. I think I may be getting sick, and I think I may have just strained the muscles in my shoulder. So anyways, I, like, decided to, like, take a little break from knitting for a day just to see if that helped, and it did not. By Monday morning, my arm was, like, very, like, swollen and heavy feeling. You could see, like, the color in my left arm was different than my right. I think it's still, I don't know if you can, like, really tell. I think you can tell my left arm is, like, got a bit of blueness to it, and my right arm is normal. And I think that gets worse the closer up to my shoulder, like the veins on my shoulder and upper arm are pretty pronounced at the moment. So Monday morning, like things were not getting better. I was starting to get concerned. So I decided to take the day off of work and go into the doctor. And they did some tests, and I was there most of the day. And I was diagnosed with multiple pulmonary embolisms, which are, if you're unfamiliar, blood clots in your lungs. So essentially I have a blood clot in my arm. It's called DVT, deep vein thrombosis, and bits of that blood clot have been breaking off and traveling to my lungs. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, pulmonary embolisms can be fatal depending on the size of the clot and how quickly you receive treatment. So I was very lucky. We caught it pretty early. And my clots were small, so there's no damage to my heart, there's no damage to my lungs. But if I had waited a little bit longer to go in, things could have turned out very differently. So it's very scary. I cried a lot. I kept joking to Dan, like I sobbed at no less than 7 healthcare professionals on Monday. Like I just was so worked up. It was really scary to like get this news. So anyways, I am on blood thinners. The treatment for DVT and pulmonary embolisms is blood thinners. So your body will naturally clear itself of clots. You just, the blood thinners kind of give your body space to clear those efficiently. So blood thinners, I'm getting into like a little bit of like the more you know. Blood thinners don't actually thin your blood. They just inhibit the various like proteins that allow your blood to clot. So my blood will still clot. It just will not clot as quickly as it normally would. So while I'm on blood thinners, I have to be very careful. If I like trip and fall, I have to go to the doctor. If I bump my head, I have to go to the doctor because my body is currently not as efficient at healing itself as it normally would be. But the reason you do that is you want to prevent, your current blood clots from getting bigger and prevent new clots from forming. And you want to do that so your body has the time it needs to clear out the clots that you have currently. So I've been on blood thinners for 4 days at this point, 3 or 4 days. And you can see, again, my arm is still really swollen. It feels a lot better. For a couple of days, my arm was like throbbing. It felt like it was going to explode. Like there was just like so much pressure in my arm. And now like it's still sore, but it doesn't really hurt when I keep it still. And so yeah, I'll be on blood thinners for about 3 months at least, maybe a little bit longer. And then I have a lot of follow-up appointments where we're going to try and figure out why this happened. The theory at the moment is that my blood clot is due to the birth control I was on. And that, is kind of my big PSA for the day. So I was on an estrogen-based oral contraceptive, which, it's pretty common knowledge. I think that there's a blood clot risk with those pills. But like, and so like I knew that, but that sort of thing can never happen to me. I feel like we often have that attitude. But, I've learned that, there is a risk of blood clot with that type of birth control, especially if you've been on it for a long time, which I have. So I definitely encourage you, if you are taking that kind of birth control, to, talk to your doctor. I'm not a healthcare professional. I can't give you guidance, but I will be stopping taking it and switching to something else. Because this has been really terrifying. And you know, I talked to my cousin. So my cousin is a lung specialist. He's in his residency currently. And he called me after this happened and we were talking and he said, you know, it's probably your birth control. And he said, you know, it's not so common that, you know, he's like, if this was happening all the time, people wouldn't take that type of birth control. He's like, however, it's not uncommon. He's like, I'm a resident. I've been practicing medicine for just a couple of years and I've seen this several times. Young women on this type of pill coming in with deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolisms. It's not entirely unheard of. And even like talking to some people, you know, friends of friends, they're like, oh yeah, like I've heard about that. Like I've heard of other people who have that's happened to. So, not telling you that you should necessarily go out and switch your medicine, but I think it's worth a conversation with your doctor if you're on that type of birth control, because it can happen to anyone, I suppose. So anyways, part of that follow-up too is to determine if there's some other sort of underlying cause to why I'm clotting so much. But chances are good in someone my age who's otherwise healthy, it's that estrogen-based hormonal birth control pill. So talk to your doctor if that concerns you at all. But also, like, my other message, I suppose, is to, you know, listen to your body and advocate for your health if something feels a bit off. I was talking to, you know, the doctor I worked with on Monday when I went in, and she was saying, like, you know, a lot of times, like, people assume, again, that it's nothing, but occasionally it's something. And so, like, if you know your body best and you know when something feels wrong. And so, you know, talking that through, telling your doctor like what your concerns are. You know, I think they ran all those tests on me because, you know, I went in there and said, I think I'm having a heart attack, or I think there's something like wrong with my arm. Like it doesn't like feel, because it didn't feel like an injury. It felt like pressure. And so, yeah. Advocate for your health. Talk to your doctor about these things. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not a doctor. I can only really talk about my experience and kind of what I've learned, but I really encourage you, if this is something that is relevant to you, to talk about it, because it was really scary. And, you know, I'm still, you know, I struggle with anxiety anyways, but now it's like, what if this happens again? You know, am I at a higher risk of this happening again? But I do feel confident, like I know what to look for now. My arm, I think, has been feeling a little heavy for a couple weeks now. And that's how I would describe like how it started, is like my left arm just felt like it weighed more than my right arm. It just felt like a little bit heavy. And I feel like it's been feeling like that for a couple weeks now. And like, it didn't hurt, like it didn't inhibit me from doing anything. It was just this like slight, like nagging feeling that it felt a little heavy. And so, you know, and I didn't know what it was, but like in hindsight, you know, if I experience that again, I'm gonna go get it looked at, because it just got worse and it resulted in something that could have been really bad. You know, I got really lucky. Like this could have killed me and it didn't. And I feel very terrified, but also like, you know, I made it through this like horrible thing. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, but I hope that kind of makes sense. And yeah, I hope this like hits home with someone out there and, you know, maybe help someone out there. All right. let's shift gears and talk about knitting. I don't have a ton to show you this time around. Again, my arm felt really terrible for a few days. I wasn't able to knit because of the pain. And then when I was able to start like knitting a bit more, I could only do a couple rows at a time, and then I had to rest. But things are looking up again. My arm's feeling a lot better after the last few days on blood thinners. So hopefully next episode, I'll have a lot more to show you. But yes, I will go ahead and show you what I have gotten done over the last 2 or so weeks. To start off the knitting content for today, I am still working on my mom's Christmas socks. I am using the Regia 4-ply. This is a 75% wool, 25% nylon fingering weight sock yarn, and the color is 3760. I was really hoping to have these done this episode, but you know, things happen. I'm getting close. I have just started the toe of the second sock. So last episode, I was here. So I knit a few more inches and I'm now starting my toe decreases. So barring any catastrophes, these should hopefully be done by next episode. And here's what it looks like in the cake. And this is, again, my second sock. And these are for my mom for Christmas. So I need to get them done because Christmas is just in a few weeks. I can't believe it. So yeah, for my mom's socks, I use a size 1 needle. I do 72 stitches. I typically make the leg about 7 inches long, a traditional heel flap and gusset, and she has a size 10 foot, so I have knit the appropriate length. And I've been talking about these for several episodes now. I don't have a lot to say on them that has not already been said. But yeah, hopefully these will be done next time and I'll have started a new pair of socks to share with you. Other than my socks, I have not worked on any of my previous whips that I've shown here. I have started a few new projects, which is a bit overwhelming, but I just felt the need to have some fun with things. Why not? So my first new cast on is actually almost finished. I'm hoping this will also be a finished object next week, but I feel like I'm getting really winded, which, you know, of course I am getting really winded. So excuse me for that. But anyways, I started a bonnet for my friend's baby. My friend had her 4th baby in September. So it's her 4th baby, her 2nd girl, and when her first daughter was born, I knit her a bonnet, and then my friend had reached out and said, like, you know, I would really, really like it if the new baby had a special bonnet all their own. And I was like, of course, I will knit your children anything they want. So, you know, making a bonnet for the new baby. So I am using some leftover yarn. I just went and looked it up. So I originally used this yarn for the Driss shawl by Melanie Berg, I believe. I knit that last summer. This is the Woolfolk Snow. I thought it was Woolfolk Tined, but I actually think the Tined and Snow base for Woolfolk is the same. The Snow is just marled. If anyone knows differently, correct me. So this is the colorway, Woolfolk just numbers their colors. So this is colorway 1 and 2. So I think the idea is that, you know, Woolfolk has their color 1 and they have their color 2, and then this is both of them marled together. It's really subtle. It's a white and a really light gray marled together. I don't know if you can really see that. A very low contrast marling. It is 100% wool. It's a fingering. I don't have the tag anymore, but Woolfolk yarn is very soft. If you've never knit with it before, I recommend you try it. It's a bit pricey, but my oh my, it's really soft stuff. So I'm using this, and I am knitting the Baby Bear Bonnet by Knitting for Olive, and I'm almost done. So you can kind of see we've got some shaping to make ears. I still have to close them up in the back. But yeah, this will kind of sit like this, and then it's this adorable little bonnet with little bear ears. I've had a lot of fun knitting this bonnet. It knit up very quickly. The thing I thought was most interesting about it was oftentimes, you know, I've knit several bonnets for various babies in my life, but often you will knit flat, and then you will join in the round to like do the crown decreasing. This bonnet was knit entirely flat. You can kind of see at the back, it's got this really interesting short row shaping that kind of seals it up. So you don't ever actually join in the round, which I thought was like very interesting construction for a bonnet. I'd never seen anything like that before. So anyways, I'm just finishing up the like main portion of the bonnet. I'll have to do a little finishing on the ears, do a little I-cord edging and ties, but then this is going to be done. So, yeah, this was like a fun little quick project. I worked on this quite a bit while I was resting this week, once I, you know, was able to, and it brought me a lot of joy to make something for one of the little ones in my life while I was resting after being sick. So yes, and it is very soft, like I said. So a couple like modifications. I didn't modify the pattern at all, but the original pattern calls for a fingering weight held with a mohair. And I did a bit of research, and the jury is still out a little bit on whether or not mohair is a good idea for baby knits. I would be curious if any of you know the answer to this or have done it and it's fine, but you know, I've heard that mohair, you know, some people are very sensitive to mohair, so that includes babies, and so we wouldn't want to put something on them that they're going to be sensitive to, but also like the fluff from mohair can like kind of break off and get in their mouths, and they can't, you know, clear it out for themselves. So I decided to omit the mohair and just use a plain fingering. And then because I was losing out on that mohair, you know, holding a fingering weight with a mohair essentially makes a sport weight yarn. And so, you know, I just had a fingering weight. And so what I did was I went down in needle size and I went up a pattern size. So I ultimately wanted this to be about a 6-month size, but I knit the 9-month size with a smaller needle to account for yarn differences. So I don't actually know if I like succeeded that well, but you know, this will fit her over the winter and into the spring. And yeah, again, I think that like Woolfolk, you know, this is the snow or the tined would be a good substitution because it is really soft and like kind of naturally fluffy and halo-y without having that mohair content that, you know, we, again, theoretically should avoid for infants. I don't know if that's true again, but just something I read. So, and maybe next time I will have 2 finished gift knits to share with you. The last thing I have been working on this week is my design project. If you watched last episode, you will know that I was talking about, how I wanted to start designing knitwear. So since last time I have cast on and I've been knitting my very first sample. And the way I decided to approach it was, I had a concept and I just decided to start knitting, and I'm taking really careful notes as I go. And then I think I'm at the point where I can actually start writing up the pattern. But anyways, so I'm going to show you what yarn I'm using, and then I'll show you like a little sneak peek. I don't want to show you the whole thing because it is kind of a secret at this point. But I will, kind of talk through my ideas behind it a bit. So anyways, my sample is being knit out of 2 types of Spincycle yarns. So the first one is Spincycle Versus. This is the slow and steady colorway. So Spincycle Versus it's listed as a DK weight, and it is their marled yarn. This actually looks very similar to the yarn I'm using for my bonnet, but again, it's a white with a light gray marled together. And then I am pairing that with Spincycle Dyed in the Wool in the Cold Comfort colorway. So I think the Dyed in the Wool is probably Spincycle's most popular yarn. This is the yarn that does the color shifting. So I am putting these 2 together. I'm a bit confused by, Dyed in the Wool is listed as a sport weight. The Versus is listed as a DK weight. However, they are both 200 yards and both of these skeins weigh about the same. So, I thought they could get paired together even though they're listed as different weights. They seem like they're not different weights. And like even visually, I think they look pretty similar in thickness. Maybe this one will like plump up a little bit more. I don't know. But just as an FYI, it does list them as different weights. However, they seem to be pretty similar. So anyways, let me kind of bunch this up. So here is, just a little sneak peek. So it is brioche. And it's got some fun, brioche texture happening. So I will be looking for test knitters at some point. So if you are I would say this pattern is going to probably be for a more confident briocher. I will say that. I think anyone can brioche. And I might actually put out some tutorials when I release this pattern with, maybe a brioche tutorial. I'm definitely going to talk through some of the techniques that are specific to this design. But yeah, maybe that's something to think about if you really like brioche and you want to help me out. I will be looking for test knitters eventually for this thing. So I really like how it's turning out. Yeah, I'm really excited. Honestly, over the last week, I haven't thought about design at all because I've been preoccupied. But prior to that, I have a lot of ideas. I'm, just kind of flowing with creative energy right now. So I'm really excited to start, working more on design projects. And I'm still in the process of figuring out how to put together a pattern. I got a free trial to Adobe Photoshop. I think that's what I'm going to use, but I don't know how to use it yet. Yeah, that's the kind of not fun part of knitwear design, is actually typing it up and word processing your pattern. Yes, So I feel like if there are any delays, it's going to be in me learning how to use Photoshop. But I'm trying to find online resources to help me out with that. Excuse me. But yes, again, I think it's going to be a couple months still till I finish the sample, and then it has to get tech edited. Yeah, I will be putting out a test snare call at some point, so keep your eyes peeled. And that is it for me this week. I do not have any sewing to show you. I have not been able to sit at my sewing machine without being in intense discomfort. So hopefully over the next few weeks, I'll be able to get back to that because I have a baby quilt I need to finish. And yeah, before I sign off for the day, I just wanted to send out a big thank you to everyone. I really appreciate your support, and I love hearing from you and getting comments from you and chatting with you all. It really means a lot to me that you spend a bit of your time with me when I release new episodes. And so if you're new, welcome. Please like and subscribe. If you've been watching for a while, I appreciate you so much. And yeah, hopefully I'll talk to you again in a few weeks. Bye, everyone.